The Blades didn't begin in Cyrodiil. Their roots lie thousands of miles away in Akavir, a land beyond seas and myths. Long before the rise of Alduin and the coming of Tiber Septim, the Akaviri Dragon Guards hunted dragons as a sacred duty. These warriors formed bonds with nobles and emperors, serving as elite protectors. When the Akaviri invasion brought them to Tamriel, they didn't return home. Instead, they stayed, and the Dragon Guards became something new, the Blades of the Empire. They arrived on the shores of Cyrodiil after the Akaviri Emperor's fleet was stranded. They brought their swords, their armor, and their beliefs. They carried dragon lore passed down through generations, and the secret methods they used to kill the great worms. This knowledge wasn't written in tomes, it was taught in blood and oath. At first, they acted like invaders, but soon they made alliances with local nobles. They offered their skills in dragon slaying and protection. Over time, they earned respect. Their weapons, carved with dragon motifs, became symbols of power and prestige. They built the first Blades outposts, strongholds where their lessons were passed to new members, young warriors chosen for loyalty, skill, and secrecy. As Tamriel's political landscape changed, the Blades adapted. Tiber Septim united the Empire, and the Blades found a new purpose. They pledged loyalty to him. Their Akaviri identity became part of a larger legacy. They were no longer foreign mercenaries, but secret keepers of the Empire's safety. But their foundation stayed the same. They remained expert dragon hunters, trained in both sword and intrigue. Dragons were rare, but threats of rebellion, Daedric cults, or assassins were not. The Blades stood in shadows, passed down knowledge in whispers, how to strike a dragon's heart, how to read their wings before a dive, or how to find the hidden nests in mountain caves. Their memory of Akavir healed cracks in the Empire's defenses and made them unique among all the Emperor's forces. They built secret vaults to hold dragon bones, claws, and tomes about dragon speech. Over time, their training included both martial skill and lore. Dragons could return at any time, and someone had to be ready. That burden shaped them. Their Akaviri roots gave them traditions, ritual sword blackening to mark a kill, chants to honor the fallen, and dragon songs passed through lips long dead. Their status grew. They became more than bodyguards. They became spies and agents. They became myth. By the time the Septim dynasty rose, the Blades were accepted as part of the Empire's heart. Their Akaviri origin became legend, stories told by elders to new recruits. "We come from a land of dragon hunters," they'd say. "Our oath is older than the Empire. Our blood carries the strength of those who faced worms without fear." In Skyrim, even centuries later, that legacy is sealed by the tattoos and armor left behind, by Skyhaven Temple, built to guard ancient Akaviri secrets and the Blades' heritage. And though the dragons vanished, the Blades held on, waiting for the day when their old role would come full circle. This is where the Blades begin, a group born in a strange land, armed with ancient dragon lore, who came to Tamriel and never left. They adapted but never forgot. Dragons may be myths then, legends now, but the Blades remain, the last living link between Akavir's dragon hunters and the Empire's secret keepers. Their history is not just origin, it's an oath written in steel, blood, and duty across time. Tiber Septim changed the Blades forever. They stopped being stranded warriors from Akavir and became something bigger, loyal servants of the Dragonborn Emperor. He didn't just use them for war, he gave them new orders: watch the world, protect the throne, stop threats before they could grow. The Blades became his spies, agents, bodyguards, and enforcers. They built hidden outposts in every province, some in caves, some in cities, some right under the nose of local rulers. No one knew how many there were or where they all lived. But if something dangerous stirred, Daedric cults, necromancers, rebel lords, the Blades knew, and they moved fast. They were loyal to the Empire, but more than that, they were loyal to the Septim bloodline. As long as a true Dragonborn ruled, the Blades had a purpose. They didn't take orders from nobles or generals. Only the Emperor mattered. That gave them freedom. But it also made enemies. Morrowind didn't trust them. Somerset hated them. Blackmarsh ignored them completely. But the Blades didn't care. They served the throne, not the provinces. Some Blades went deep undercover for years. Others trained in secret, guarding roads or investigating cults. The public never saw them, unless something went wrong, and when it did, a Blade showed up and cleaned it up, quietly. They also protected the Emperor himself. When the Septim line ruled strong, the Blades were never far. In Cyrodiil, they guarded the White Gold Tower. In Skyrim, they worked with the court. In Hammerfell, they kept an eye on old Dwemer ruins and strange guilds. They used everything: magic, blades, disguises, history. Their knowledge of dragon lore was unmatched. Most people forgot that, but the Blades never did. They studied old ruins. They translated dragon walls. They kept alive the ancient language of the Dav. That knowledge wasn't just about dragons. It was about the soul of the Empire, about power, about bloodlines. The Septims came from Tibur, and Tibur came from the Blades. It was all tied together. And as long as the Septims ruled, the Blades had work. But that kind of loyalty comes with a risk. When the Septims started to fall, when assassins, disasters, and bad heirs shook the throne, the Blades lost direction. Some left, some died, some stayed, and waited for the next true Dragonborn. But none of them stopped believing in the bloodline. Even in the darkest times, they remembered who they were sworn to. Not just the man on the throne, but the idea behind it. A Dragonborn emperor. A ruler with the soul of a dragon. That idea held the Empire together for centuries, and the Blades were the quiet force behind it. They didn't wear banners. They didn't ask for thanks. They just kept the Septims alive, no matter the cost. They fought cults in the shadows. They stopped uprisings before they started. They kept ancient weapons locked away, and through it all, they waited. Watched, protected. The Blades were never just warriors. They were guardians of an idea, and as long as that idea lived, so did they. The Blades were much more than just secret dragon hunters in the shadows. During the Third Era, they had a visible and powerful presence across Tamriel. They weren't some hidden cult lurking underground, but a wide network with real influence and resources. They maintained secret bases in major cities and strategic locations, each one stocked with archives, training grounds, and magical wards. These bases were hubs for intelligence gathering, where agents reported on threats to the Empire. Their agents were trained to be more than warriors. They were spies, diplomats, and scholars who could move through courts and battlefields with equal skill. One of their most famous roles was guiding the Nerevarine in Morrowind, helping the reincarnation of Indoril Nerevar navigate politics, prophecy, and war to unite the Dunmer and end the crisis caused by Dagothur. Their support was crucial in this legendary struggle, showing they weren't just fighters, but careful planners who understood the stakes of Tamriel's future. They also played a key part during the Oblivion Crisis. When the gates to Oblivion opened across the Empire, the Blades coordinated efforts to close them. The hero of Kuwatch was one of their secret allies, and they provided intelligence, resources, and protection. Their symbol, the dragon's head, was recognized everywhere, a sign that justice and vigilance were present even in the darkest times. The Blades had libraries full of ancient knowledge, some dating back to before the founding of the Empire. These vaults contained histories, magical tomes, and dragon lore, all preserved for those who could wield it responsibly. They guarded this knowledge jealously, knowing it was key to combating the return of dragons and other threats. The command posts of the Blades operated like military headquarters, coordinating missions, recruiting new members, and training those chosen to join their ranks. They weren't just a band of warriors, but a structured organization with leadership and discipline. Their influence reached across all provinces, from the icy north of Skyrim to the warm lands of Cyrodiil, and even into the politically complex regions like Morrowind and Hammerfell. This presence meant the Blades could respond quickly to dangers no other group could handle. Despite their openness in the Third Era, the Blades still worked quietly in many ways. They kept many secrets from the public, especially about dragons and their weaknesses. They avoided involving the general population to prevent panic or misuse of dangerous knowledge. Their agents often worked undercover, disguised as merchants, nobles, or even common folk, gathering intelligence and acting where others could not. The Blades' role also extended beyond combat. They helped maintain stability in regions where imperial control was weak or challenged. They brokered peace between warring factions and hunted down dangerous cults that worshipped Daedric princes or sought to destabilize the empire. Their influence was felt in courts and council chambers, where their backing could sway decisions. The Blades' reputation was built on centuries of service. Their origins in Akavir gave them a perspective unlike other imperial organizations. They carried traditions and fighting styles from across the seas, and their discipline was unmatched. Even though the empire changed rulers and faced endless wars, the Blades adapted and survived, proving their worth over time. However, this visibility also made them targets. Enemies of the empire, including assassins, necromancers, and rival factions, sought to infiltrate or destroy the Blades. They faced betrayal from within and attacks from powerful magical enemies. Their resilience was tested time and again. The Blades also had a complicated relationship with the Greybeards and the Dragonborn. While they shared a common enemy in dragons, their methods often clashed. The Blades saw dragons as threats to be eliminated with force and cunning, while the Greybeards followed a path of meditation and understanding. The Dragonborn stood between these philosophies, with the power to choose how dragons would be dealt with. Throughout the Third Era, the Blades remained a symbol of resistance against dragonkind and other supernatural threats. They inspired hope in some and fear in others. Their legacy was written in battles fought and secrets kept, in alliances formed and enemies defeated. In many ways, the Blades were a hidden backbone of the Empire, their story woven into the history of Tamriel even if few knew all the details. Their influence waned after the Oblivion Crisis and with the rise of the Thalmor, but during the Third Era, they were everywhere, a reminder that the fight against dragons and dark forces was never far away. The death of Martin Septim marked a huge turning point for the Blades. For centuries, the Blades had been loyal to the Septim bloodline, sworn to protect the Dragonborn Emperor who carried the power to fight dragons and keep Tamriel safe. Martin Septim was the last of that line, and when he died at the end of the Oblivion Crisis, the Blades lost their anchor. Their whole reason for being was tied to the Dragonborn Emperor. No emperor meant no clear purpose. After Martin's death, the Blades struggled to find their place in a rapidly changing Tamriel. They tried to carry on their duties, guarding secrets and hunting threats to the Empire, but it wasn't the same. The Blades were built around loyalty to the Dragonborn. Without one, their role became shaky and uncertain. The Third Era ended with the Empire in turmoil, and the Blades found themselves weakened politically and socially. The loss of the Septim line meant the Blades lost the backing of the throne. Nobles and officials questioned their authority. Without imperial support, their influence waned. Their agents spread thin and fewer in number. Their bases fell into neglect. They still fought cults, Daedric worshippers, and bandits, but their old prestige was gone. Many members held to hope that a new Dragonborn would rise, someone who could restore their purpose and bring the Empire back from chaos. These loyalists kept the traditions alive in secret, training in hidden places, guarding ancient knowledge, and staying ready. Others lost faith and drifted away. Some became mercenaries or vanished into the shadows. The unity that once defined the Blades began to fracture. They faced a crisis of identity. Their existence had been tied to a single figure, the Dragonborn Emperor, and now that figure was gone forever. They had to ask, what now? The Empire itself was weaker, facing internal strife, rebellion, and threats from outside, like the Aldmeri Dominion. In this unstable world, the Blades' old mission seemed less urgent. The rise of the Thalmor and their growing power overshadowed the Blades, who were no longer the main defenders of the Empire's legitimacy. The Blades tried to adapt by hunting other enemies, but they no longer had the political clout or resources they once did. Some agents went underground, operating in secret. Others took on mercenary work or served local rulers. The organization became fragmented and less respected. Despite this, the Blades kept their eyes open for new threats. They stayed vigilant against Daedric cults, dragon cults, and any group that might endanger Tamriel. Their knowledge of dragons and ancient magic was unmatched, yet their influence was fading. The great libraries and vaults that once held their secrets were abandoned or lost. The network of spies and informants that stretched across Tamriel shrank. This slow decline was painful. The Blades were no longer the powerful force they had been under the Septims. The loss of the Dragonborn Emperor meant the loss of a unifying cause and political power. Some surviving Blades still believed that a new Dragonborn would appear, restoring the Order's purpose and strength. Until then, they worked quietly, hoping to keep the legacy alive. The death of Martin Septim and the end of the Septim dynasty marked not just the fall of an empire, but the near collapse of the Blades. Once guardians of the throne and dragon hunters, they were now shadows struggling to survive in a world that no longer needed them the same way. Their story became one of survival, waiting, and searching for a new meaning in a changed Tamriel. The Blades faced an uncertain future, torn between fading into history or rising again with a new Dragonborn to serve. Their fate remains one of the great unanswered questions in the story of Tamriel. After the Septim dynasty ended, the empire passed to the Mead family, starting a new era that brought big changes for the Blades. The Mead emperors never trusted the Blades the same way the Septims did. The Blades had been loyal protectors of the Septim bloodline, but the Mead line was different. They saw the Blades as tied to the old empire and worried they might have their own agendas. Slowly, the warm relationship the Blades once had with the throne grew cold. The Mead emperors stopped inviting the Blades to court and cut their funding. Without imperial support, the Blades lost power and influence fast. Their network of spies, agents, and secret bases began to crumble. The Blades had once spread across every province, watching for threats and protecting the throne, but now their numbers shrank. Many agents were left without orders or money. Some continued working quietly, while others drifted away or gave up. The Blades who remained loyal tried to hold onto their purpose, but it became harder every year. The lack of resources meant fewer missions, less training, and weaker presence in the provinces. Their ancient libraries and vaults fell into neglect. The vast network that had been their strength was now broken into pieces. Meanwhile, the political landscape of Tamriel was shifting. The Aldmeri Dominion, led by the Thalmor, was growing in power and influence. The Meta Emperors faced pressure from all sides, internal rebellions, border wars, and the rising threat of the Dominion. The Blades, already weakened, could not keep up. They tried to warn the Empire about the growing danger of the Thalmor and their hidden schemes, but few listened. The Mead rulers preferred diplomacy and treaties, even if it meant making deals with their enemies. The Blades' warnings were ignored or dismissed as old-fashioned paranoia. The Thalmor themselves knew the Blades were no longer a serious threat. They used this to their advantage, infiltrating the Empire and undermining it from within. By the time the Great War between the Empire and the Aldmeri Dominion broke out, the Blades were shadows of their former selves. They had lost the trust of the emperors, the support of the people, and the resources to fight. The network that once spanned all of Tamriel was now scattered and weak. The Blades no longer had a clear mission or leader. Some members tried to regroup and rebuild, but the odds were against them. The fall of the Septims and the rise of the Mead dynasty marked the slow death of the Blades as a powerful force. They were no longer the Emperor's trusted protectors, but relics clinging to a fading legacy. Their history, knowledge, and skills remained, but without backing, they struggled to make a difference. The Blades' decline mirrored the Empire's own struggles. Both faced enemies from outside and inside, and both were weakened by politics and mistrust. The Mede Emperor's cool attitude toward the Blades sealed their fate. Without support, the Blades couldn't resist the growing threats. They became a secretive, broken order, waiting for a chance to rise again. Their story in this era is one of loss, change, and fading power. It shows how even the most loyal guardians can fall when their protectors lose faith. The Blades lived on, but in the shadows, far from the glory days of the Septim dynasty. The Aldmeri Dominion's rise to power changed everything for the Blades. When the White Gold Concordat was signed between the Empire and the Dominion, it wasn't just a treaty that ended the war. It came with strict demands, one of the most devastating being the forced disbandment of the Blades. The Thalmor, the ruling power of the Dominion, saw the Blades as a threat to their control over Tamriel. The Blades weren't just any group, they worshipped Talos, the very god the Thalmor aimed to erase from history. They trained and protected Dragonborn, figures the Thalmor viewed as dangerous because of their power and their role in uniting Tamriel against the Dominion. The Blades operated in the shadows, moving quietly to defend the Empire from hidden enemies and to keep secret knowledge safe. The Thalmor wanted to remove this obstacle entirely. When the Empire agreed to the Concordat's terms, they also agreed to outlaw the Blades. The once proud protectors became hunted criminals overnight. Suddenly, they had to go into hiding, losing their bases, funding, and public support. The Thalmor sent agents to track down and kill any surviving members. Many Blades were betrayed, hunted, or killed in secret clashes that went unnoticed by most of Tamriel's population. The organization that once spanned the entire continent became a scattered collection of fugitives struggling to survive. Their libraries, vaults, and secret records were seized or destroyed, erasing centuries of knowledge and tradition. The Blades were forced to operate in deep secrecy, with their ranks thinning and morale fading. Some tried to keep the mission alive in hidden corners of Tamriel, protecting the few remaining Dragonborn and acting as spies against the Dominion, but each mission risked death or capture. The Blades were no longer a recognized force. The Empire cut all funding and support, hoping to avoid further conflict with the powerful Dominion. This left the Blades isolated and vulnerable. The Thalmor used this to tighten their grip, spreading fear and enforcing their rule without opposition from one of the Empire's oldest defenders. Common citizens feared the Thalmor and their agents, making it harder for the Blades to find allies or safe places to hide. The once secretive warriors now had to trust only each other, and even then, paranoia was constant. Their loyalty was tested as their order crumbled under pressure from a new world order. The Blades' mission shifted from public defense to survival, moving from the light into the shadows of exile. Without their support network, dragons returned to roam freely, and Daedric cults gained strength. The balance of power tipped in favor of chaos and darkness. The Blades' disappearance allowed new threats to grow unchecked, making Tamriel more dangerous than ever. The legend of the Blades remained alive in whispered stories and the memories of the few who knew their history. They were once the Emperor's trusted protectors, the silent guardians against dragons and hidden enemies. Now, they were hunted ghosts, fading from history while the Thalmor solidified their control. Their story during this time is one of loss, resilience, and quiet defiance. Though they were broken and scattered, the Blades never stopped fighting. The Thalmor's victory over them marked a turning point in Tamriel's history, showing how power can be used to crush even the most loyal defenders. The Blades' legacy is a reminder of the cost of war and politics, and the struggle to hold on to identity and purpose when everything changes. Their fight is far from over, but their place in the world has been forever altered. They exist now as shadows, surviving in secret, waiting for a chance to rise again and protect Tamriel once more. The story of the Blades, during the Concordat and the rise of the Dominion, is a tale of loyalty tested by betrayal, power crushed by fear, and heroes forced into hiding by those who fear their strength. Their history is written in the silent battles fought in the dark, the lost knowledge hidden in forgotten vaults, and the hope carried by those few who still remember what it means to be a blade. By the time Skyrim unfolds, the blades are shadows of their former selves. Their once vast network, scattered across the continent, has crumbled almost entirely. The mighty order that stood as the Emperor's secret guardians, trainers of Dragonborn, and silent protectors against dragons and Daedric threats is now a mere memory. Delphine hides behind the walls of a simple tavern, blending in with common folk, wary of every stranger's gaze. She carries the weight of the Blade's legacy on her shoulders, knowing she is one of the last living links to the Order's proud history. Esbern, once a scholar and fierce blade, has fallen into obscurity and despair, hiding beneath the streets and sewers, away from prying eyes and enemies. The secret knowledge he holds about dragons and the world's ancient threats remains locked away in his mind, a precious treasure amidst ruin and decay. Skyhaven Temple, the Blade's legendary stronghold and sanctuary, lies in ruins. Its halls are silent, its walls cracked and overgrown. Where once the Blades trained and strategized, now only echoes of the past remain. There are no outposts, no coordinated plans, and no reinforcements to call upon. The Order's support system is gone, broken by years of persecution, political betrayal, and war. Without an emperor to serve, without public trust, the Blades have been pushed to the edges of Tamriel's history. Yet what keeps them alive, despite everything, is their knowledge and skill in hunting dragons. Dragons, once thought long dead, have returned to threaten the world again. The Blade's purpose, fragile as it may be, revolves around this threat. Their survival depends on their ability to protect Tamriel from these ancient predators. Even as the organization fades, the Blades remain uniquely qualified to face this danger. They carry the wisdom of centuries, secret techniques passed down from Akavir, and a deep understanding of dragonkind. They are the only ones who can truly stand against the rising menace. But the Blade's power is diminished. They are fewer in number, isolated, and often hunted. Trust is scarce, allies rarer still. They must operate in secrecy, striking from the shadows, avoiding open conflict with enemies stronger than themselves. The empire they once served is fractured, its rulers distracted by politics and war. The Talmor's influence continues to loom, weakening imperial power and leaving the Blades without official support or resources. Despite this, Delphine and Esbern cling to hope. They seek out the last known Dragonborn, guiding and training them in the lost arts of dragon hunting. They understand that without the Dragonborn's power, Tamriel may fall to the dragons once again. Their story in Skyrim is one of survival against overwhelming odds. It is a tale of loyalty to an old cause, even when the world no longer remembers or respects it. The Blades are the last guardians standing between Tamriel and destruction, but they stand on the brink of extinction. Their fight is quiet but relentless, a struggle to keep alive an ancient mission in a changing world. As dragons rise, so too does the need for the Blades, but whether they can reclaim their former glory remains uncertain. They are haunted by the past, but driven by necessity. They hold on to their knowledge, their oath, and their hope, even when all else fades away. Skyrim shows the end of the line for the Blades as a powerful order, but also a potential new beginning if the Dragonborn can rise to meet the threat. Their story is not just about decline, but about the thin thread of survival and the flicker of resistance in the face of great darkness. The Blades are gone, but not forgotten, their legacy woven into the fate of Tamriel, waiting for the moment when they can rise again. The Dragonborn is the last hope the Blades have seen in centuries. This figure carries the blood and soul of a dragon, a power thought lost to time. The return of the Dragonborn shakes the very foundations of Tamriel's fate and reignites a fire the Blades have struggled to keep alive. They see in the Dragonborn a chance to rebuild their shattered order. They want to train, guide, and protect this new champion, hoping the ancient line of dragon hunters can rise again, stronger than ever before. For so long, the Blades wandered in the shadows, broken and scattered, barely holding onto the old ways. The Dragonborn brings a new purpose that feels alive and urgent. Yet, this power is also a heavy burden. The Blades offer their knowledge and support, but they cannot force the Dragonborn's hand. The choice to lead or abandon the Blades is left to the Dragonborn alone. Their loyalty must be earned, their path decided by their own will. Training under the Blades is rigorous, filled with the secrets of dragons and how to face them. They pass on stories, spells, and the knowledge of ancient weapons. They prepared the Dragonborn for a destiny few could even imagine. One of the most difficult requests the Blades make is the order to kill Paarthurnax, a dragon who helped the Dragonborn but also once led the dragons in war. This demand causes tension and doubt. Paarthurnax represents a chance for peace, but the Blades see him as a threat that cannot be forgiven. The Dragonborn stands at a crossroads, weighing loyalty against mercy, old duties against new possibilities. This struggle is central to the Blades' survival as well. They rely on the Dragonborn's choice to shape their future. Throughout this time, the Blades remain cautious and secretive. They know enemies are everywhere, waiting to destroy what little remains. The Aldmeri Dominion's influence spreads, and the political climate grows dangerous for those connected to Talos worship and Dragonborn power. The Blades cannot openly rebuild yet. They must be careful, working from the shadows, as they did for centuries. The Dragonborn's arrival marks a turning point, but not a guaranteed victory. The Blades hope that this figure will unify them and restore their purpose, but they also fear being left behind as the world changes once again. The story of the Dragonborn and the Blades is one of fragile hope and uncertain futures. It is about ancient oaths, difficult choices, and the struggle to survive when the world seems to have moved on. The Blades watch, wait, and prepare, knowing that the fate of Tamriel might rest on the shoulders of this new hero. Their ancient knowledge, loyalty, and skills offer the Dragonborn a foundation, but ultimately it is up to the Dragonborn to decide what the Blades become next. This chapter in their history is both an ending and a beginning, a chance to rise from ruin or fade into legend forever. The Blades remain tied to their past and bound by their oath, but the Dragonborn's path may lead them to a new destiny or to their final fall. The power and responsibility the Dragonborn carries changes everything, giving the Blades a flicker of hope in a dark time. But the future is still unwritten. The Blades have watched centuries of change, but by the time Skyrim falls into civil war, their role has shrunk to almost nothing. The conflict between the Empire and the Stormcloaks rages across the land, towns burn, armies clash, and loyalties are tested, but the Blades stay apart. Once, they were the Emperor's secret weapon, his eyes and hands in the dark, rooting out threats and guiding heroes. Now, they are scattered and weakened, forced into hiding. Their power is a shadow of what it once was. The Blades watch from the mountains and ruins, their old outposts empty or forgotten. They no longer command armies or spy networks. Their missions to protect the Empire's secrets and fight dragons have faded. The Civil War itself barely registers on their radar. The Blades don't take sides. They don't fight for the Empire or the rebels. Their ancient oath was to the Dragonborn Emperor, a line that ended long ago, and no one else fills that role. The political struggles of Skyrim seem distant compared to the threats the Blades were made to face. The war tears apart Skyrim's cities and countryside, but the Blades remain isolated, disconnected from the chaos. Some of their members have died, others have disappeared into obscurity. Those who remain have no armies, no political power, no influence over the outcome of the war. Their presence is like a ghost haunting the mountains, a reminder of a time when they shaped the fate of empires. The Dragonborn is the one chance they have to regain relevance, but even then they are cautious, careful not to get caught up in the larger political struggles. The Blades' focus is narrower, killing dragons, protecting the secrets of the past, and surviving in a world that no longer needs them. The Civil War represents the changing times and the fading of old powers. The Blades, once a feared and respected order, are now sidelined and ignored. Their history and skills are known by few, their influence a memory. They exist between worlds, caught in the ruins of a forgotten empire. The war shakes the foundations of Skyrim, but the Blade's place has been lost. They watch from the shadows, waiting for a sign, a reason to rise again. But the Civil War isn't that reason. It's a conflict of men and politics. While the Blades deal with threats far older and more dangerous, the war leaves them out of the story, a silent force slipping quietly toward extinction. Their loyalties lie beyond the battles of men. They serve an ancient purpose that doesn't align with the ambitions of the Empire or the Stormcloaks. The Blades have become relics in a land that no longer values their kind of power. Their legacy remains in the stories and whispers, but on the battlefield of Skyrim's civil war, they are absent. The Blades watch, waiting for the day they are needed again, but that day is not now. They have survived through centuries, through wars and empires rising and falling. Still, the Civil War shows that the world has changed. The Blades are no longer rulers behind the throne, they are observers of a world moving on without them. Their future depends on something greater than politics, a return to the old ways, or the rise of a new Dragonborn to lead them back to power. Until then, they remain forgotten warriors, watching the war from the sidelines. The Blades have existed for centuries, once the fiercest warriors and protectors of Tamriel, sworn to guard the Emperor and destroy dragons wherever they appeared. Their story begins long ago, well before the rise of the Empire. They carry ancient knowledge about dragons, how to fight them, and how to survive their deadly power. In Skyrim's time, though, the Blades are shadows of their former selves. Once a vast order with many warriors, secret bases, and powerful influence, now only a few remain. Their name is barely remembered outside of whispers. The empire they once protected no longer calls on them or trusts them. Their old headquarters lie in ruins, their libraries and vaults abandoned. The once great order has fallen into obscurity. Yet even with this decline, the Blades have not given up their purpose. Their mission remains the same, to kill dragons, protect Tamriel, and serve the last Dragonborn. Their numbers are few, but their loyalty is fierce. They hide in mountains, forests, and towns, training in secret, passing on their ancient skills when possible. They still study dragons, watch the skies for signs of their return, and prepare for the battles to come. Without strongholds or armies, they work quietly and carefully. They have no power to command large forces or influence politics. The world has moved on, and many see them as relics or legends. Still, Blades remember who they are and why they exist. They know dragons are not gone forever, and that new threats will rise. Their knowledge, passed down through generations, is the key to survival. The Blades train warriors who can face dragons' fire and claws, who know their weaknesses and strengths. This knowledge is precious, and they guard it closely. They are warriors, scholars, and spies, all rolled into one. They have survived political betrayals, the death of the Septim line, and the rise of enemies like the Thalmor. The Aldmeri Dominion outlawed them, hunted their members, and broke their networks. Despite this, the Blades persisted. They learned to move in the shadows, to hide, and to strike when necessary. Even as their numbers dwindled, their purpose stayed alive. The Blades are no longer the powerful order they once were, but their spirit remains. They have no castles, no armies, and no official support. They rely on secrecy, skill, and ancient tradition. Their members are scattered, living quiet lives while waiting for the moment to act. The return of dragons has given them hope and renewed urgency. They see the Dragonborn as the future, the key to rebuilding their order and defeating the dragon threat once and for all. They train, protect, and guide the Dragonborn, hoping to restore the Blades to their former glory. But they cannot do it alone. Their numbers are thin, and the world is dangerous. Many see them as a fading memory, an old story from a bygone age. The Blades know otherwise. Their mission is eternal. They are the hunters of dragons, the protectors of Tamriel, and the guardians of the Dragonborn. They fight in silence, waiting for the day when their skills will be needed again. The Blades are still chasing dragons, even as the world forgets them. They are the last line of defense against the deadly enemy that returns in cycles. They carry the knowledge and skills to face that enemy. Without the blades, Tamriel would be defenseless. Their story is one of loyalty, survival, and hope. They fight not for power or glory, but for duty and protection. Though their numbers are few, their purpose burns bright. The blades remain. They watch the skies, train new warriors, and stand ready. In a world full of danger and change, the blades are the quiet hunters who keep the peace. They are not gone. They are waiting. They are watching. They are still chasing dragons,